And David, the law mandating conscription is actually 14 years old, I understand, but why is it only being enacted now?
Well, I think when the former military regime in 2010 wrote this law, I think it was kind of a kind of an insurance policy for the future, just in case they needed it further down the track. And right now they actually need it. They're taking huge battlefield losses, and there's desertions and defections to the resistance. So they really need to replenish their personnel ranks.
And conscription, though, is not just about boosting troop numbers?
I think there's something more than that. I think it's kind of a general level of trying to force as many people into the military to kind of spread the complicity, as it were. And I think it's a way to try and harness as many young people into the military in order to kind of inculcate them into the military mindset. And that's what a lot of Myanmar people think. That this is a desperate act on the part of the military to actually kind of indoctrinate a new generation of young people.
So what has been the reaction of those in Myanmar, especially those who are of conscription age and those who are and have been against military rule?
Well, a lot of fear and alarm. I mean, almost immediately there are lots of people lining up to try and get out of the country, to try and obtain passports, people hiding out. I think throughout the country, regardless of where people are, this has really raised a lot of concerns that they're going to be basically forcibly recruited and sent to the front lines. And in typical fashion, the Myanmar military haven't really released many details about how they're going to do it, how they're going to do this, and where the people forced into the military are actually going to serve. And so that's fueling a lot of uncertainty. And there's a lot of people who are getting ready to leave the country anyway because of the dire economic situation. But this is kind of propelling large numbers, tens of thousands of people to try and get out.
And those who are fleeing, where might they go? Are neighbouring countries affected?
Well, most of them are actually trying to come to Thailand, where there's already a large number of people, migrant workers, millions of migrant workers who have been here for many, many years, and a lot of middle-class people and not necessarily highly political people, but have just left the country since the coup because remaining is just not viable anymore. So that's going to potentially cause headaches for Thailand, who have to process a lot of these people and actually let them come in. And also concerns that people won't take the route of actually flying out, because that's something that's only really open to people with financial means. But people trying to illegally cross the border. So it's going to be a very big headache for Myanmar's neighbours.
And are there concerns for those who want to flee but don't have the means? What will they do?
Well, I think that there's a growing concern that if, another element of this conscription law is basically for a corrupt bureaucracy to make more money. If you get picked up and you have the means to buy yourself out of this, then there are a lot of people that can do that. But there are millions of working poor that just don't have the means to do that. So one dimension of this is that it's a war against the poor. The working poor, of which there are millions in Myanmar, might be the ones actually press-ganged into the ranks. And the middle-class people with means can actually get out of the country.
Does the junta actually have the capability to enforce the new law?
Unfortunately, yes, it does. A lot of the urban infrastructure of a police state is still there. The police force and civilian administrators do actually have the capacity to start picking people up. And we've seen that in big cities, in Yangon and Mandalay, young people actually being picked up. Either as forced porters or to actually go into the military. And the military is suffering a lot of losses in the hinterlands, in where all the fighting is going on. But in the centre of the country, they still have a massive network of bases and personnel that could actually push this conscription through. So unfortunately, yes, even though they're suffering a lot of losses, they've still got the capacity to actually make this work at some level.
And I know you've said that not many details have been released about this move, but where do you think most of the new recruits might be posted?
Well, that's I think up in the air. It's going to take at least a couple of months to give some rudimentary training to people. If you look at where the main battlefield losses in the western state of Rakhine and in the north, but also in the eastern borderlands and in the northwest, there's a potential that people forced into the military and given basic training and weapons will be deployed to units actually in the front line. And that's what's driving a lot of people to flee. They just simply don't want to fight for a completely illegitimate, brutal regime.
Well, just to summarise, what do you think this move tells us or shows us about the junta's position right now in the country?
I think, it definitely shows that that they're losing. When they will lose, I think, is anyone's guess. It will probably be a very long and painful decline. I think it's also showing that for this military, they're basically going to take the country down with them. And we're seeing that on the battlefield where they're attacking more and more civilians using airstrikes and artillery. And I think that this is another measure of like, well, if we can't hold on to power and control the country, then we're going to take the country down with us. So it's a very, very worrying sign.
Indeed. Well, David, really appreciate getting your analysis on that. Thank you.
Thank you.